Well, hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of the FutureSox podcast. My name is Ian Eskridge. Joining me this evening is James Fox. How are you, James?
Great, sir. How's it going?
I'm doing well.
I feel like we just did this.
Yeah, we just did this a few hours ago. This is our second podcast of the day. Tomorrow, we will be releasing this and a stream/pod that we did with Jeff Ellis of Locked On Guardians earlier today, which is chock full of all sorts of AL Central goodness. So if you're interested about the draft and the AL Central portion specifically, this is a good one for you to take a listen to. So one thing that, the draft is a week away. So I kind of wanted to hop into what you want the White Sox to do at number 5, first off, and then we'll get into the rest of it and talk about the things that you've heard.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really does kind of depend a little bit on what happens in front of him, but I think if it goes the way a lot of people think are going to go, like I tweeted a little bit earlier, like I'm all aboard the Connor Griffin train. I think it makes lots of sense. Like in a class like this, you know, a kid that's 18, reclassified. I understand that there's some swing mechanic issues, right? But I mean, this is a guy that's like plus everywhere. Like he, you know, and he's like double plus in multiple spots. I mean, when you're saying that it's, you know, like really good defense at short or Gold Glove caliber in center, you know, plus power, plus speed. I mean, you think it's like a little guy, he's 6'4", 215 as like an 18-year-old, you know? So, you know, I guess the only knock is that he hits right-handed, and that's fine. But, you know, he's not left-handed, which is what it is. But, yeah, I just think their track record lately of taking preps, if they think this guy's going to be awesome, take him. Like in it. You know, there are some drawbacks that we'll talk about once they take him. We won't immediately get to see him. That's one of those things that's kind of annoying, you know, but I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, I think while it's what I want them to do, I also think it's very highly possible. You know, somebody that's not supposed to be there could be there next Sunday. And we're sitting here talking about Travis Bazzana, the Chicago White Sox. And I don't think we'd be upset, you know, but you know, if those things that we think are going to happen, and our choices are the guys we think it's going to be, like, I hope they go Connor Griffin.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. You know, obviously, besides the standout tools that he possesses, if you have not heard it, there is an interview with Jim Callis where he is interviewed. He interviews Connor Griffin, and if you've not heard it, I would say it's probably likely that if you hear this, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, that's my guy, because the kid is highly motivated and he seems like a fantastic human. It's hard to root for him. So, although apparently,
yeah,
we have somebody that says no.
Yeah, well, you know. I know, like, there are people that don't like taking prep guys. I mean, if you just like look at a top 100 list, like half of them were high school picks. So it's generally like the way I would go. I mean, obviously, like if you're picking 1, 2, 3 in a class where there's like loaded with college players, like, yeah, I mean, then it's, you know, it's kind of like a no brainer to take one of those guys. I don't think this is one of those classes. I think, you know, like if JJ Weatherholt doesn't go 1 and he's on the board at 5 and that's the pick, like I'll be totally fine with that. You know, I think if Jack Caglione is on the board, they very well may take him. We've talked about how we would have some concerns about that. But look, I think I think a lot of people think he's just like one of the best players in the class and he transcends it, like even as a first baseman. Right. So, you know, I think, you know, either of those two guys like wouldn't surprise me. And then I've just kind of thought that Condon and Bazzana like weren't even options, but who knows? Like we get to the day of, and you just never know because it's all about money, as we've talked about.
Yeah, I'd say that if we got to number 5 and Travis Bazzana was there and we took him, I'd be ecstatic because you and I had the talk. I don't know, in January or so, and you're like, oh yeah, he's going 1 overall. There's no way he's going to be there at 5.
But yeah.
If he ends up being there at 5 and the White Sox take him, I will be absolutely stoked. That said, I like Connor Griffin a lot.
Well, even like some of the stuff we heard from Jeff today, just about like he like is trying to put like an entire country on his shoulders, and obviously listen to that episode tomorrow. But there's like a whole bunch of that stuff in there. You'll get the vibe from him that, you know, I think Cleveland fans would just prefer them to take Travis Bazzana at 1 and pay him because they think he's the best guy. I think there are some people though that think JJ Weatherholt's really close to Travis Bazzana. Weatherholt was preseason number 1, like for this draft, and hurt himself twice, you know? So I get it, right? It's not as much power. He might be able to play short. Bazzana can't. But yeah, I mean, at this point, like, it seems like it'll be one of those two guys unless there's a big surprise. I know Joe Doyle told us Chase Burns. So who knows, right? Like, so yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, so there's like a question here for like that Lil Luch. Is that how you say it? Lil Luch?
Probably Luch.
Lil Luch. Sorry. Yeah. So we're picking 5 in a class with 5. Who are the 5 elite college hitters? Because, like, to me, like, I think there's a high likelihood that Weatherholt, Bazzana, Condon, and Kaggs are all gone. I think there's 4 really good college hitters. The other guys, like, I would take.
There's holes. Yeah.
I would take either high school guy over Montgomery or Kurtz. So, you know, and at that point, like, I would just take Chase Burns, but it doesn't seem like the White Sox want to do that. Yeah. See, Kurtz is a total no-go for me. Like, I don't know. I don't think I would take Kurtz with a top 10 pick.
Yeah. The first baseman thing, although, you know, it's possible that he could, you know, play on the other side, but,
and Wake Forest, I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, people have their opinions. That's fine. I just personally, that's not my pick. Personally. So moving on to the second round pick and the comp pick. What is your thoughts on where the White Sox are headed, and do you have names in particular that you're watching?
Yeah. So I've heard lots of names of players that they're connected to. Now the issue is at 43, that pick is worth like almost $2.2 million, right? So I feel like a lot of these guys that I've like heard about, look, like there's a chance that like the White Sox just pay somebody $3 million in that spot that falls, right? I think that's the unknown. That's the thing we don't know about, right? Is there a college bat that they love that they would take at 15, right? That somehow is on the board at 43. And I know they don't have the 15th pick. I'm just saying, like, you know, if they had a pick in that range, like there's a guy they'd feel comfortable taking, right? I'm sure there are a couple of players like that. Like one of them could get to 43. It could be an absolute no brainer. And like all of a sudden we just like take a guy and we're talking about him, right? But it's probably not a name I've heard. So like I've heard a lot of prep arms. Obviously they've gone to like every Ryan Sloan start at York High School. I think I don't think they can get him to 43, and I don't think they can pay him. My guess is Ryan, and I don't know this. I don't know anybody who knows Ryan Sloan, but I would think that's minimum $4 million probably. And I don't think they can swing that unless they save a ton at 5. Joey Oki out of Ankeny, Iowa. It's near Des Moines. He was on their area codes team. So spoiler alert, like I have a 5-round mock draft coming out Tuesday. He's in it. He's one of the guys. Boston Bateman is a giant lefty, 6'8" lefty out of California. They've had some interest in him. Levi Sterling is he's a righty from California. Owen Hall is a right-hander from a prep guy from Oklahoma who was on their area codes team as well. And then, you know, Tomas Volunchis, who's a lefty out of Kentucky. That's the guy that Joe Doyle told us about, but they've like kind of been on him too. And then Blake Larson is really interesting. He's probably like a 3rd rounder. But it's weird because like these guys just go to school if they don't get paid, right? So Blake Larson's another like interesting lefty who was shocker an Iowa prep kid, and he pitched at IMG Academy in Florida this year. So Blake Larson somewhere would not surprise me at all. They love their Midwest guys. He's like another Midwest guy. Now look, I've heard college names. Connor Foley of Indiana it's funny because it's Indiana and it's Mike Shirley. Thatcher Hurd of LSU is really bad this year. He's pitching on the Cape right now, trying to, just like show scouts. So he came out of California high school 3 years ago. The Sox were really interested. He went to school. He went to UCLA for a year, didn't work out, went to LSU the last two, and just, command and control, not good. But if they found a way to draft Thatcher Hurd round 4, round 5, I would not be surprised by that. And then an interesting one, Cade Obermueller. He's like a redshirt sophomore out of Iowa, who they have a lot of interest in, but like he's really down the board, like on sites, right? So he's like, I think at Baseball America, he's like in the 200s or 300s. But I mean, the issue is like as a sophomore, like you'd have to really pay him. So I feel like that's like a weird one to me. Like they like him, but I feel like he'd rather go back to Iowa than do that. And then look, on the high school position player side, I put JD Dix of Whitefish Bay in my last mock. Like I'd heard some PJ Morlando, scares me a little bit just because, big power guy out of South Carolina, but not sure on a position there. Lots of Ks. And then look, some of the college guys that I've heard, like don't really fit at 43 at all. So look, that doesn't mean like I don't know everything. Like these are just names I have. So
you don't know what's going to be available either. At
yeah,
the time,
like I'm sure there's college guys that they like, right? But Peyton Stovall they really liked out of high school. He's a second baseman at Arkansas. Cole Mathis, I believe, is a first baseman out of College of Charleston. Cole Messina is a catcher out of South Carolina. So there's multiple catchers. They like taking catchers.
So I heard that isn't Messina's, he's a little bit higher. I've seen him like go mocked in the first round. Haven't I?
I don't know. Sure. So there's like 4 catchers that are like first round picks. I don't believe he's one of them because he's like a guy ranked in the 70s most places. Okay. But I mean, he might be catcher number 5, and if 4 of them go in the first round, like he could move up the board. Colby Shelton is a college shortstop from Florida. Josh Kason's another catcher from Nebraska. And then outfielder Carter Matheson of Indiana. I would not be surprised if he ends up on the White Sox, but he's a later, like he's, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. But yeah, so just to like their first round pick is like 7,763,000. Their second round pick is 2,172,000. Their other second is 1.1. And then their pick at 78 is 996. So I mean, like that could even be $1 million player if they play their bonus pool right. And if it's Connor Griffin, my thought is that they'll save a little bit. So they'll have some money to play with. And then their overage that they can spend is another $730K. So, you shave some off 10 and, rounds 9 and 10, you should have plenty of money, Yeah, Drew, it is. So just think about like the first 10 rounds, they can spend like 15.3 million. That's kind of the way I look at it. And as they're picking players, you don't really know. Like I remember last year, like they took Grant Taylor and I was like, well, I assume that's slot. I didn't know that Jacob Gonzalez was going to be under, you get to Keener. That seems like slot, right? The first one that really seemed under was Lucas Gordon. So then when they pop Wolkow, you're like, oh my God, like how are they going to pay for this? Well, they saved $600K in the first round and they saved in a few other spots and they used the savings on George Wolkow and Christian Opper. So yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting. There might even be like some college arm that they love that's on the board of 43 and they can't like Ben Hess of Alabama was a Midwest kid. But there's a bunch of guys at LSU like Ben Holman of LSU. So who knows?
5 got a question here. Saw your tweet, James, of 5 of the first 107 picks. Is that number normal, high, low?
It's normal if you have a comp pick and you pick like in the top 5 or so. So like it's not normal for the White Sox because they have an extra pick this year because they traded for the Mariners second. So they would pick 5th overall in round 1 at 5, 4th overall in round 2, which is at 43, 4th overall in round 3, which is 78, 4th overall in round 4, which is 107. But then you also add in pick 68 that they got from the Mariners, and that's how they have 5 of the first 107. They also have 6 of the first 140 if you want to keep going. But I mean, it's just they have an extra pick this year, which is helpful.
Yeah, it's helpful. Although I have to say that, if we were in Cleveland shoes where we had that, what is it, 19 something bonus pool. That would be supremely useful. Although that first pick slot is obviously eats up quite a bit of that. But
well, it's 10-5, right? So I guess like if the White Sox were in that position and their slot was 10-5, like would we be talking about just giving the full freight to Charlie Condon? Or I mean, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know what we'd be talking. I don't know what we'd be talking about.
Yeah, that's. I would like to be in that position, but at this point, we haven't thought about it. Why would we? Because
I can't tell you that Travis Bazana is the best player in the class. Like if Cleveland thinks he is, and it's only $700 or $800K more, like I would probably just do it than play money games. But like I don't know. Like I don't know who the best player in the class is. There's questions about Charlie Condon too, about where he's going to play, about the baseballs they're using, about the bats they're using, about Georgia. Like there's all sorts of questions. So that's why this whole thing is going to be fascinating to me, just to see like where guys end up.
Yeah. Also, if you are, interested, we talked to Jeff Ellis earlier today, and he gave us a spreadsheet. And have you had a chance to look at that spreadsheet and looked at this batted ball data?
Yeah, I looked at
it all.
It is insane.
It's pretty interesting stuff.
Well, and I think from your background, like you know way more about this than I do, just being on like the prep scene, like seeing what some of these kids are using, seeing the impact that like some of these bats are having. And the whole thing to me, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but like if I were a decision maker, this would scare the hell out of me, this type of stuff. Like, cause like, I know you watch the College World Series and it's cool. And you got guys like JJ Cooper, who like, I really respect, like, he's the top guy at Baseball America, right? And he's raving over the EVs and stuff, right? And I was a little bit skeptical of that. And I think you kind of, you didn't push back, but you told me like, no, it's still like important data, right? But I just don't know that I don't know what it means. Like, I just don't. Like, does that mean it's going to translate to wood? Like, I don't know how you would know that.
Well, it's not an exact science, but the pro ball versus the college ball, the average like extra feet it goes, it's going to go like an extra, 7 feet on the same exit velocity, but then if you're using wood, obviously it drops a little bit. So you're kind of just shifting where that extra is coming from. The pro ball is going to go a little bit farther, but you're losing some. So it's an interesting thing. So trying to judge what you're looking at in the college game and even in the high school game, like the exit velocities that are coming strictly from the baseball using the same bats is like 3 or 4 miles per hour lower than the pro baseball. So it's like, who knows, so it's hard. It's a tricky thing. So,
well, we talked a lot with Jeff too about the Cape and just the Northwoods League, all these leagues. Like the White Sox are notorious for, I can't remember the last guy they drafted that I wrote up or read about after that was like, this guy sucked with wood. They don't take many guys like that. It's usually guys that have had success in wood bat leagues. And they're big. It's always like, we're going to see a guy drafted in the 11th or 12th by the White Sox. That's like, this guy was a demon on the Cape. It's just every year, it's something. And, Brooks Baldwin was one of those guys. Like, It was like, he was unbelievable on the Cape and he won. I don't even know what the Colonial Conference or whatever he was in. I mean, this stuff's crazy, but there's diamonds in the rough to be found, like for sure.
Yeah. Question here from Ron, says, a few minutes behind. Could Blake Burke be an option for their second or third pick? So first baseman, Tennessee. I mean, the White Sox are, I would like to say they're probably in the market. Just a guess. But looking at his numbers, there's high chase rate. So the bat to ball thing and the plate discipline is a question. But there's some power there. And
I would say all those Tennessee guys, look, anybody could be in play at 43. I just don't have a ton of names. I have more names than I typically do, just from kind of talking to people about like who they've been on. But like that also doesn't mean that they don't have some other guys that I don't know about higher. Like, that's why this thing's interesting. So I like tackling it after, if I get one name in one of these mocks, like I'm always excited. Like the one year I nailed Sean Burke, I was like, yes, I got one, it is what it is. So, but the one thing, like, I will say, like, I'm curious to hear Mike Shirley talk this week just to see if he says anything. Because I'm curious about, like, them having the extra pick. He always talks about, like, the arms race. Like, he always wants pitchers, and he likes high spin guys, and he kind of has a type, and we're 4 years in now. Yes. But I mean, the system really does need power. So I wonder if it's going to be a focus at any point, like, hey, like, get the power hitter. Now, obviously, they took a massive high school power hitter last year in the 7th round that's coming into his own. And, you have like your college, your Tim Okos and your guys like that. But I mean, they haven't really focused on it with early picks like in a while.
Yeah. I mean, although you could say that, Jacob Gonzalez, 20-ish home runs and coming from a College World Series winner kind of fits that same mold of, someone along the lines of the Burke pick. If that was to be made, you're looking for some sort of and this is something that I feel like they've focused on a lot as of the last couple of years, is picking guys that have won in college and are generally regarded as leaders at their school. I think that's been kind of a focus for them in the some of the drafts. I mean, you look at Elko and Harris and Jacob Gonzalez from Ole Miss, it's like they've got kind of something that they're looking for, and who knows?
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, even Grant Taylor like came from a family of athletes. There's like 4 boys. You just like constantly competing, that sort of thing, So it's definitely something that Mike Shirley looks at. I'll tell you, like, I hear these names and I go to do like a 5-round mock, just looking at stuff, and it's often leadership qualities, high baseball IQ, makeup, multi-sport athlete in high school, lots of football, backgrounds, like stuff like that. It's not bad. Like I coach high school football. Like we preach playing everything. I mean, instead of specializing. And look, sometimes you specialize and you get Bryce Harper. Like it's fine, right? But guys benefit from playing a whole bunch of stuff and just competing with other kids.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with that. We've run through this in my household, trying to figure out like what we want to do. And, my kid wants to wrestle and play football as well. And I'm all for it. I mean, besides the fact that, injuries scare me to death. But I mean, other than that, like
wrestling's good for everybody.
It really is. It's just what a sport that just absolutely kicks your ass. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
So I wanted to. Are you good on the draft? Do you have anything else that you wanna talk about here?
I think so. I mean, we're gonna go live obviously next weekend. Like, do you think your realistic best case scenario is similar? Are we gonna be the same on this? Like, we want Connor Griffin, right? It seems like I just think the chance at upside, like there's a bus factor, but there's a bus factor with college guys too. I just like taking the swing when you're picking this high. Like I have no interest in going safe. I don't think the scouting director does either, which is why last year was so puzzling. I didn't hate Jacob Gonzalez, but looking back on it, there's some guys I really liked. Colt Emerson, Aiden Miller. Like, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but it's like, you got a whole bunch of prep guys from that class, like littered on top 100 lists. And you decided to make the college pick. So,
yeah, I mean, my point, my feeling here is that, yeah, I would also like to take that swing because, there is no, in the top five in general. Yeah, there's some guys who had some success in college, but there's no slam dunk, 5 guys that are absolutely amazing that everybody's, fighting over. There are 5 guys who have shown promise in college baseball. But as far as ceiling goes on any of those guys, like, I don't feel like there's a ceiling that's like massively higher than where they already are. So I think I'd rather take the swing on the young guy that has stolen 85 bases in his senior year and has power and has a good glove, can play multiple up the middle positions, can throw the ball 98 miles an hour. That I'm into, and I'm willing to accept that risk. But, I mean, we'll see if the White Sox are.
Well, I just think, like, the step down in this class, right? Like, as much as I just talked about J.J. Weatherholt, like, he gets hurt, whatever, right? Like, I mean, are you sure that J.J. Weatherholt's going to, like, have a better pro career than Christian Moore of Tennessee? Like, are you sure that Braden Montgomery is going to have a better career than James Tibbs of Florida State? Like, that's what I mean. Like, I would gamble on the premium prep guy that would be highly ranked in most classes. Like, if Connor Griffin went to LSU right now, like, he'd, probably go in a similar spot in 2 years and he'd make a lot more money probably, but because he'd be like a college guy. But yeah, I mean, and look, if it were like, I'd be fine with Rayner too. I just, like at 5, it's an interesting spot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think it seems to me that Rayner's kind of faded a little bit as far as rumors that I've heard, anything within like the top 12, 13. Like, I've heard him a little bit farther back. I haven't seen him up towards the front of the draft class, in the mocks as of late. So
yeah, and there's rumors on Kansas City liking the prep guys. Like Washington's done it frequently. Detroit's done it recently. So who knows, like up in there somewhere. And I'm sure we'll get multiple mocks from all the heavy hitters this week. I'm actually interested to. I like the Kylie McDaniel ones because he does like 2 rounds. So you get 3 White Sox picks in there. And that stuff is always informed speculation. Like, they like these 2 guys, Live Clutch? You were there for it?
Just watched the NASCAR race. I was wondering if it was going to even happen earlier.
Yeah, they started it like late.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they I guess like the race before the big race was awesome. I don't know anything about NASCAR, but I saw people talking about how great it was. And then it was like disappointing that this one was like postponed, but I think they started. So I'm glad that I don't live in the city. So
yeah. So next thing on the list here was the Future Stars game. We have found out this week that the White Sox will be sending Noah Schultz and Colson Montgomery to the Future Stars game. That's pretty exciting. Pretty happy about that. I'm, the whole Colson year so far has kind of been one of those things that's been, that had people a little bit scared due to the K rate and all that stuff. But it should be a good time.
Yeah. Well, he talked this week. They got him out there to White Sox media. So, part of me wonders, and we didn't really talk about the promotions. We can in a minute. Like how much of that was done to like help Colson Montgomery, like get some guys up there with him and just see. I do think a big underrated reason for those guys being there was I didn't realize, you might have known better than me, like the lack of left-handed pitching in the AA Southern League. I guess that's not on the Barons. Like just the sheer number of at-bats that Quero and Baldwin weren't getting right-handed. So they feel like they're going to get a lot more right-handed at-bats in the International League. So that's helpful. But yeah, I mean, these 2 guys are obvious. Like if you look at top 30 lists, I thought Quero deserved it. But I mean, they didn't send Montgomery last year and they probably should have. So
I actually had a conversation with Larry Schultz earlier this week, and I had brought up Quero as well. And he said, "Oh, well, Quero played last year," and I was like,
"So they sent. So he went with the Angels."
Yeah, he went with the Angels. So both Queros were in it last year, and then Kai
that's
Busch
not a
was
rule.
in it the
He
year
could
before
go
that.
back, right?
I mean, technically, I guess he could, but
because the Cubs have 3 guys there. So I always thought it was like 2 only, but they have Ballesteros, Shaw, and somebody else too. So. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. So he went already. So they wanted to get Colson 1 Futures game. I feel like.
Yeah. No.
And
absolutely.
They got him, and they got him 1. And Noah Schultz inning will be marvelous. I'm sure, especially people that have never seen him before. Just to get on the soapbox for a minute. Why do they play this game on Saturday night? It is like the dumbest possible time that you can have this game, right? Like, why not Monday night? We don't do anything Monday night, right? I mean, the draft is
Nope.
Sunday night. The draft is during the day Monday, during the day Tuesday. All-Star game is Tuesday or Wednesday? When's the Derby?
It's the Major League one.
Yeah, is that Monday?
It's the day before,
So
right?
maybe that's Monday, and then the All-Star game's Tuesday. So that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, so play the Futures game on Wednesday.
Yeah.
You know, where people can actually watch it. Like, nobody's going to watch it Saturday night when there's big league games. Oh, yeah, you, right. Me.
Yeah.
But there's big league games on. Like, the whole point of this whole weekend was, like, to get eyeballs on it. That's why they moved the draft to this weekend, too, you know. Well, you didn't really achieve that, right? Isn't there like a high school, like, All-American game, too, or something they build around it? I feel like they do. For, like, next year's class? Yeah. Yeah, so they run that
game
too,
national
like
showcase or whatever.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the Futures game's always cool. I remember when Luis Alexander Basabe like hit a left homer in that game, and you know, then people were mad when the White Sox DFA'd him and lost him for nothing.
And then he didn't do anything anyway. What was I going to bring up? Yeah. I mean, there was also, you know, Major League Baseball talks a big game about trying to get these young guys out in front of people's eyeballs. But then you have the games during spring training, the showcase games of the team's prospects, and the White Sox Cubs game got rained out, and then they didn't have it.
Yeah.
So they didn't reschedule it. So
yeah, and some of those like weren't even televised. Like I think there was a game this spring where it was Paul Skeens against Dylan Cruz, and you couldn't watch it. You can't watch it anymore.
Televised. Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah, they talk a big game, but I don't know how much I really buy it.
Yeah.
So you wanted to talk about some promotions here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting timing. I wonder if there's more coming with the 2 days off. I haven't heard. I feel like you or I would have heard by now, so there's probably none. But
I haven't heard anything. But earlier this week, Brooks Baldwin and Edgar Quero both got promoted from AA Birmingham to Charlotte AAA. I'm sure that if you follow us on Twitter, you also saw that on his first pitch that he saw in AAA, Brooks Baldwin hit a home run. Later in that same game, Edgar Quero also hit an Oppo home run as well in that game. One interesting thing, you know, that you had brought up that I didn't comment on was the amount of left-handed pitching in AA and it not being there despite, you know, watching the White. If you watch the White Sox all the time, you think that there's tons of left-handed pitching in AA. There's not. It's just on the White Sox. Yeah, that's one of those things that Brooks Baldwin, whenever Brooks Baldwin actually got right-handed at bats, it was far and few between. And it's kind of one of those things where it left you wondering how he was going to fare hitting right-handed. You know, and actually, like Dan Victor brought this up. Our Dan Victor brought this up that, you know, one thing that was going to be really a question on Brooks Baldwin's development was how he was going to hit right-handed. Is that whenever, you know, like most of the time when you see Brooks Baldwin getting big hits, he's swinging left-handed against right-handed pitching. But, you know, in true the way the internet works fashion, immediately after he made that tweet, the next game, he faced a left-handed pitcher and he hit a home run against him. So, I mean, you know, yeah, it'll be interesting to see him get some more at bats. Him and Quero both get more at bats against some left-handed pitching for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you got those two guys there with Colson, with Ramos. I mean, obviously Colas is still there. There's some other, you know, prospects, but I think that team. I mean, that team's offense is more interesting than the Birmingham offense now because they moved all the guys to the International League. So
yep,
we'll see if any more changes happen. Obviously, like as the deadline comes, and you know we have a draft coming. But I mean, yeah, like Kai Busch is there too, which I don't find that surprising. Kai Busch needs to be added to the 40-man roster to protect him from Rule 5 this winter. So I feel like Kai Busch is the next name up of the guys that aren't on the 40-man. So if you get another like spot start, whatever, like I think Kai Bush gets added and he's the guy. I'm curious to see if they add anybody else, whether it's Jake Eater, you know, it probably won't be Iriarte at this point, but I mean, Eater, Mason Adams, like, you know, Davis Martin's on the comeback trail, but my thought would be like once he rehabs, like he's probably in the big leagues, I would think. Like he just like takes the Fetty spot or the Flexen spot and he's in the majors again. Yeah. So yeah, he got roughed up a little bit, but his stuff looks pretty good. He looks back from Tommy John.
Yeah. So the thing that I've noticed is that there is times when he loses his feel for a little bit. Usually, from the couple of times I've seen him pitch here, is that he's lost his command for like a half of an inning, and then he comes back and he looks fine. So it's kind of one of those things where it's probably just going to take him some time to get back into the swing of things here, you know?
Yeah. Coming back from Tommy John's hard. I mean, we're seeing it with Grant Taylor, you know, he was lighting people up and then now he's like gone with the lat injury. So, and we'll see like if he can make it back. Yeah. So I'm going to the Saturday and Sunday Pirates games because I don't know, I've probably said it on here before. My wife is a Pirates fan. My in-laws are from Pittsburgh. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be a Clevenger game probably because I'm going. So we'll see. I don't get Paul Skeens either, which sucks.
So Clevenger was supposed to pitch yesterday in Charlotte, and the game got rained out.
Yeah.
And Kai Bush. Now, I have not heard this from anybody, but it's just my guess because I know that Clevenger's only going to pitch 4 innings. My guess was that Kai Bush was going to take the piggyback on that and pitch like the last 5 innings of that game. You know, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, that he would get 5 innings in that game as his first taste for AAA. But, you know, of course you have the rain out, and so we'll never know. But I assume that Clevenger's probably going to get the Tuesday start in Charlotte. I would assume because he was scheduled to have another start.
So my guess is then he'll start Sunday in Chicago against Pittsburgh.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah, right before the break.
Hooray! That's what everybody wants to see right before, you know. Just
well, I mean, I'm bringing my like 2 little children to that game, and I need to get home to do the live show with you, so it might not be the end of the world. Like, get my my s'more milkshake and get out of there in like the 7th inning and be all good, you know.
Have you had one of those yet?
Not yet. I heard it's awesome though. I have to do it once. I have to do it once. So
yeah, no, I mean, it seems like one of those things that you would at least try once.
Oh yeah, I got to do it once.
You know, if you are allergic to dairy, lactose intolerant, whatever, RIP to your stomach.
You should still do it once. Yeah,
you got to live, man. You got to live. You can't live in fear, you know?
Yeah.
Let's see. Trey says that they'll be.
If I eat it, you'll get a review. That's fine. Yeah. I could be like one of these little. Who are these? Like you got what? Chai Sox Mike. That's all. You know, he's been around forever, and you have this Maddie Spagnola now, who's like really popular. Who like they eat the food like and like record it. I will not be doing that, but I guess I could. I don't. It's not really my deal. Set up the camera and you can watch me eat it. It's kind of.
Yeah, you know, like the one thing that I struggle with Maddie is that one of her favorite foods is chicken fingers.
Yeah, it's cool because she's like 14 years old. So
yeah, well, you know, hey, I don't know, 14. She's out of high school at least.
I'm kidding.
Anywho, yeah, so that was cool. Okay, so other promotions that happened. So interesting thing that happened. Was it Saturday? Was it Friday? I can't remember. Tommy Vail pitched, and Peyton Pallette went from his day starting. He ended up piggybacking on Vail, who just got promoted from Kannapolis. Now, because they moved him up, now they had to promote guys from the ACL up into Kannapolis to fill those Tommy Vail innings. And they brought up a starting pitcher from the ACL, Ricardo Brizuela. And
he was an international guy. I remember him.
Yeah. And the thing was,
He got greeted. He got greeted really rudely.
Oh man, it was. Yeah, I felt bad for him. And then they also
I heard they sent him back to the Dominican Republic after.
Oh, they did not. Stop it. Yeah. And then Patrick Maybach, who pitched after, maybe it's Maybach. I don't know. It could be like the car. It might not be. I'm not sure. But he ended up pitching for after Brizuela was out and pitched 2 scoreless innings, and he pitched well. So for everybody that did not see the highlights of that game, Ricardo Brizuela, his first inning was pretty rough, and he gave up 7 hits and 6 runs in the first inning. I would safe to say that he looked like his nerves were getting to him a little bit, and he was trying to overthrow the ball. Second, third, and fourth inning were very good, and then the fifth inning there was an absolutely atrocious call by the home plate umpire that had the entire Cannonballers team freaking out, and Pat Leland got fired out of there.
Yeah.
And
a terrible call in low A. No way.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, well, the thing was apparently foul by like 1.5 feet, and he called it fair. And Ronnie Hernandez, the catcher, just turned around after he called it fair, just turned around and stood in his face and said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "That's foul." Anyway,
I saw when was the one where like George struck out on like the curveball that was like super high and he got noticeably pissed too? That was was like a game recently too.
Yeah, he was
that
not.
Was a ball.
Yeah. There's the umpire crews in A-ball this year have been pretty noticeably bad. Whether it's calling fair and foul balls, whether it's strike zones just being absolutely atrocious. It's been really hit or miss. And talking to Andrew Murphy, the play-by-play guy from Winston-Salem, he says, I don't like to openly criticize those guys on air because the thing is that they are also learning the job as they're going along. Yeah. So he's like, I don't kill them too bad unless, it's something really bad. So, yeah. Anywho, curious your thoughts on Ronnie Hernandez.
Solid. I mean, catchers take forever, and he's super young, and he's in canny, so I don't really see I don't really see any reason to go to Winston, unless they take one of these college catchers or something, and you want that guy in Kannapolis. But I mean, yeah, and he's caught a fairly veteran staff, and I feel like if his game calling wasn't great, they would not have him catching Grant Taylor, Seth Keener, Lucas Gordon, all these vet guys. So I think that's pretty promising. Like a lot of these Venezuelan catchers are pretty good and lauded for their defense. It's just most of them can't even hit their way out of A-ball. And Ronnie Hernandez has been pretty good. I think he's got a WRC plus, like well over 100. It was like 110 or so, I think, the last time I looked. So not a ton of power, but, doing the job down there, and he's super young.
Yeah, it's weird. It's actually weird, like I'm kind of surprised on the amount of power that has not happened. Like I kind of figured that there would be more, and just for whatever reason, it just hasn't manifested yet. Not entirely sure what it is. Yeah, he's hitting 272 with a 386 OBP and a 332 slug. So
yeah, so not a huge slug, but 386 OBP is pretty good.
Yeah, and he's got a 121 WRC plus. So
good player. So I mean, he'll get top 30. Love. He'll be on the just missed for sure. I think after the deadline in the draft, I don't think he'll be on the top 30, but I think guys will bring him up for sure.
I'm going to bring this up because I know that you want to talk about John Schriffin's growling.
You know what? I actually think it was fine. Like he's done way worse stuff than doing the Panther growl. It was fine. I don't care. And I don't see Edgar Quero in the big leagues. At least I hope not. There's no reason to do that. I think, if you think it's most of 2025, great. But I don't need to see him in September this year.
Yeah, I think that's pushing it a little bit. This is, as mentioned earlier, that Quero is 1 for 7. And granted, the at-bats haven't been terrible, but, that's kind of one of those things you want to see some success out of him. Yeah. And he definitely needed to get him some at-bats against some left-handed pitching as well.
Well, and catching's hard enough. Like, I mean, that's why these guys take so long. Because it's just, couple guys. One guy that a lot of people have probably never heard of, and then we got Big George too.
As far as what are we doing?
That we have to discuss, I thought.
Oh yeah. So, as mentioned, Tommy Vail came up and did some great things here, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up this scene right here. And I'm going to show you the first time that I saw Tommy Vail and actually paid attention. Because, obviously I watch these videos and I take all the video and all that stuff. That curveball right there is just nasty. The Cannonballers and the Pelicans in this particular series, this was early May. And they were having like a knockdown, drag-out series. And Tommy Vail just came in and just shoved and just punched them in the mouth and struck out a ton of guys in that outing. And that was when I started to notice. And he ended up piggybacking on Grant Taylor. And when Grant Taylor ended up getting put on the IL, they started Tommy Vail. And you've been seeing you've seen not 100%, domination. It's not Grant Taylor, type of stats that you're going to get out of him. But this is a guy who went to Notre Dame and then transferred to TCU and then transferred to Auburn for his final season out of college. And, the whole thing with the 2020 draft and everything kind of put him into a weird thing. He went undrafted and the White Sox signed him as a free agent right after the draft. And he looked pretty good in the ACL. And now, you're looking at a fairly useful pitcher here from, all things from what I've seen so far. You're looking at a 1.66 ERA and he's got 66 strikeouts to 18 walks.
In 38 innings pitched.
Yes.
Which is insane.
Yeah, he's right now he's at a 18 per 9 strikeout rate.
The whip well under 1, and now he's in the Winston-Salem rotation, right?
Yep, just got bumped for the Friday start. I believe it was a Friday start. So that's coming up right here. Let me go ahead and
2-2 pitch, a late swing. Swing and a miss, struck him out. The 3-2, cut and a miss.
33 innings, there's 1-2. It's a fastball right down Broadway. Vail's payoff coming home. It's a fastball, called strike. 1-2 pitch, swing and a miss. Throw by the catcher Calvin Harris. The pitch, swing and a miss. On the 8th pitch of the at-bat, swung on and missed. First strike, 3.
Not that I wanted it to. I was just,
2-2 pitch, foul tipped and held on to. Swing and a miss, first strike.
That's pretty impressive.
It's just very deceptive. I mean, he seems like a Bannister guy. Like the fastball plays up because he doesn't throw it as much as the other stuff, maybe. So, yeah. I mean, he's definitely came out of nowhere. I'd love to know, like, if he's made any repertoire changes, what the Sox did with him. Maybe we'll try to have him on and talk to him, just because guys like this are always super interesting to me. I mean, he's an undrafted guy. He's 25, but 66 Ks in 38 innings with a whip under 1 is, a guy like worth discussing, obviously.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he's one of those ones where he's the kind of guys that Shirley and company have been finding here in the last couple of years, in that he is a guy who knows how to pitch, uses his changeup really well, is deceptive, and seems to be something that they are really in tune with picking up and, grabbing in the draft. So this is one of those things where I kind of just say, as far as whatever Mike Shirley and company are choosing to do with the draft, I'm pretty much okay with. And I think that we both would agree that the Jacob Gonzalez pick last year was not exactly probably coming out of that camp.
It doesn't seem like it. And he can be salvaged and be something, right? But I mean, the rest of the class like doesn't line up with the first rounder, you know, like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Zavala or no? Okay, there's a pitching lab. Yes.
Yeah. So there's already a pitching lab. It's been in Arizona for years.
Now it's being used.
Now it's actually being used because it hasn't been being used since the 2021 season. Nobody actually really used it during the season, per my information that I've gotten, which is sad, but true. And to actually answer this one as well, Bryce Collins has also been amazing. Yes, he has. I don't know.
Same thing. Another undrafted guy. That was LSU.
Another undrafted guy. Yep. His curveball is absolutely disgusting. I wonder if I still have that.
He was like one of the tread athletic guys that they found.
Oh, is he a tread guy?
Yeah, and that's I think Brian Bannister just like has all these connections like at all these places, and you know, I just feel like, you know, I don't know that Brian is responsible for every pitching move that they make, but you would assume that he has a hand in all of them or most of them.
Yeah, I would think so. You don't hire. It's like exactly like we talked about with Jeff Ellis about the new pitching coordinator.
Yeah.
You don't hire a guy like that and then not allow him to run the show. You know?
No, and that's the thing. Like, if I could ask Mike Shirley one question, and you know, hopefully I get to like after the draft happens when he takes some pitchers. Like Mike's been doing this a while. He's drafted some good pitchers. He understands the value of like finding starters. But when you have Brian Bannister in your building, like how much are you leaning on that guy? Like right now, like through this process. And I know he's probably got a lot to do, right? But I'm sure he can watch video of draft prospects if you throw him, you know, hey, we're looking at these 10 guys, like watch these and let me know what you think. Like my guess is that's part of the gig, but I don't know that for sure.
That's what I'm saying is that if you've got that guy in the building, if you're Chris Getz, you're telling him that this is a priority, you know, and from things that I've heard is that, you know, Brian Bannister enjoys going out and working with the younger guys and not staying centralized. So I'm almost 100% sure that that's probably something that he probably geeks out on in watching, you know, prospect film.
Yeah.
So
that's good. And I know Katz watched a bunch of guys in recent years. Like I know like when they took Noah Schultz, like Ethan Katz like watched him or, you know, whatever, big league pitching coach. Like, but now you have a guy higher than the big league pitching coach, basically.
Yes. So from the first time that this season that we were actually able to see him, let me go ahead and bring this thing up. From the first time that Prospects Worldwide attached us on a video to on Twitter, and we got to see that swing right there. It was pretty much one of those things where we just kind of looked at it and we said, that kid's a monster. And, you know, of course, when he got brought up to Kannapolis, people were, you know, and rightfully so, I guess, worried about his bat to ball skill set. But there was a visit to Kannapolis by the roving hitting instructors, and George Wolkow made some adjustments in his approach. And in the last two series, the White Sox have seen, you know, or the Cannonballers, I suppose, have seen the rewards of the work that he's doing there. In the last two 6-game series, he is batting .429 with 18 hits, 10 singles, 1 double, 2 triples, 5 home runs, has 16 RBIs, and he has a 10 strikeout to 16 10 walk to 16 strikeout ratio. Dude is bonkers.
Yeah, it's you know, it's a 44% K rate obviously overall, but we talked about how a lot of that was like right away when he got there. 174 WRC plus as an 18-year-old in low A. He won't be 19 until January. Obviously there haven't been top 100 updates, but I told you this off air. Like if he were born in the Dominican Republic and he were a Yankees prospect, like he'd be on top 100 lists, putting up the numbers that he's putting up in low A. Like it is what it is. So
top 10 in the top 100.
And I think something interesting that I didn't know, like when we talked to, and you might, like, I know you're like over in Wheaton and, he'd playing at Downers North. Like it seems like he reclassed, and we talked to Joe Doyle, and he had kind of like a bad body and he was awkward. Not even that he had a bad body. That's not fair, but he was like awkward. Like he's like a baby deer. Like he didn't know what he was doing. And then something clicks like in the North Woods League, and JJ Lally is really good at what he does. And I think the White Sox might have stole a guy. I mean, $1 million in round 7. I mean, this is, if he does something similar Downers Grove North High School this year and he looks like this guy, I mean, it's a top 50 pick in this draft. And that's where it's kind of like, I feel like people are like, what do you mean? He can't be a top 100 guy already. He's a 7th rounder, like whatever. Like, oh, that would mean he's ahead of all these other guys. Yeah, he might be. Like when we go do our list, like whatever, early August, like if he's still doing this, like he's hiking way up to like near the top of that White Sox list. I mean, it is what it is. He's going to have to continue to decrease the K rate. The BABIP is unsustainable this high, but look, they're both always going to be high. He's going to be a high strikeout player, but that's okay. Like if he strikes out 35-ish% of the time, he's a top 100 prospect. And it's not even a question.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things somebody mentioned to me earlier today. They said, oh, he looks like a real 3 outcome player. And I was like, yeah, 3 outcomes are extra base hit, walk, or strikeout. Like that's it. Yeah. That's the only thing he does.
Well, and that's base hits. That's the other thing. Like I will not take Adam Dunn slander of any kind.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, like I feel like people do is another Adam Dunn. Like if he's Adam Dunn, it's like one of the best draft picks in franchise history. Like Adam Dunn was a monster for 8 straight seasons
until he came to the White Sox.
Now look, he like the way he played baseball for many isn't aesthetically pleasing, right? But like you look at the back of the baseball card under home runs and it's 38, 38, 40, 40, 40, 40. Like that's fine with me. With 100 walks every year and a ton of strikeouts, like I'm good with it. And this kid's a better defender. So yeah, that's fine. We've heard Joey Gallo. Somebody on Twitter today said Josh Hamilton. Josh Hamilton was more athletic, like when he was younger.
I don't know.
He's a monster,
I mean, you've seen George on his triples. The kid can run.
Yeah.
And he can throw too.
Yeah. Josh Hamilton was a number 1 overall pick and then got into everything he got into. And then he still salvaged like a really good, like high point of a, above average career, I would say. But Josh Hamilton was a monster for a while.
I would say that Schwarber is a bad comp because Schwarber has a much more advanced plate approach. Plus, he also went to college and,
Yeah, better hitter, worse defender, similar power. But I think a lot of people kind of thought Schwarber was going to be like a better hitter. Like they didn't think he was going to be like a 3 true outcomes guy. They kind of thought he was going to hit for power. He was a catcher in Indiana.
So. Yeah. So, as you know, I'm a White Sox minor leagues aficionado when it comes to the gear that is being put out there. And as Danny Miller says here, I need one of those Independence Day jerseys. The Knights one was even better. I need 2. Mm-hmm. Did you happen to check out the Knights 4th of July jerseys that they had this weekend?
I saw them. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
They're great.
And yeah.
And I think I was joking that they have like 35 uniforms. They can keep that one in the rotation. That one's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I was when I saw their 4th of July ones for this year, I was like, well done. Like usually I'm kind of like, it's okay, but these ones were real stinking good. Let's see here. We kind of brought this up briefly, but top 5 in the system for Wolkow.
I don't know if he will be like after they have a draft and trade a couple of guys, but he's definitely in the top 10. I mean, he's got to go up higher than, like, I would have him higher than Jacob Gonzalez and Brian Ramos right now, probably, and that's just off of memory, just me thinking about it. I'd still have Grant Taylor way up there, but I mean, look, if they take a Connor Griffin, he's hiking right up there, and who knows what trades they make. But yeah, no, I mean, he's right. Like, guys, when I say, like, obviously, like, when you say that, like, he might get some top 100 love, that means he's also gonna, like, leapfrog a ton of guys that are currently on the White Sox top 30. Like, that's part of it.
Has to.
And then there was a question about Zavala, low batting average, but I mean, he's got like a 19% walk rate. That's basically carried him. I think he's got a 105 WRC plus in Winston as a 19-year-old. He does have power. So it's not a lost cause because he's playing center field and he walks a ton. I'd rather have that than the alternative. I like guys that understand what they're doing. And I feel like his approach is really good.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that he's putting together great at bats. And the BABIP has been low for him. I feel like he's just due for an upswing here. And, I am kind of perplexed as to why the home runs haven't come. I was expecting more home runs out of him, but he did struggle in high A last year as well. And this just might be part of his learning curve.
Well, it might just be tough. Like, well, maybe he's a little too selective, right? Like, maybe instead of an 18% walk rate, it's a 12% walk rate, and he hits for more power. And he'll figure some of that out. Like, he's doing like the Colson Montgomery thing a little bit, where he doesn't swing ever.
There is that as well, for sure.
At bad pitching, and like, it's high A Sally League pitching. A lot of times not great.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting thought, is that one of those things that it's A to advanced A, then they start hitting. But it could be that he's just not seeing as many bad mistakes, but he's not seeing great pitching either, and he's probably getting bad calls. I mean, I've seen him get quite a few rough calls against him.
Yeah.
So my last thing that I wanted to bring up was I made a tweet earlier today about Lenyn Sosa. Since he's been called up on May 31st, you're looking at a guy with a 117 WRC plus, over 119 at bats. That's not updated for today's game, so I guess it would be 123 plate appearances.
2 more hits today. Yeah.
2 more hits, yeah. That's the fact that he's still got a 17.6 K rate and 4.2 walk percentage.
Yeah, he doesn't walk.
He doesn't, and that's just not part of his game. But he's still going to put up, at least useful numbers so far in his career. Up until he got called up to the majors, and that's where he started having problems. And as we've mentioned numerous times, literally at every level since he's gotten bumped up, it takes him a while to get acclimated, and then once he does, then it's on. Yeah,
I think he's earned himself at least like part of the second base discussion in 2025 to start, probably. And I think the White Sox would love for that to be Jacob Gonzalez's job at some point. But look, I mean, Brooks Baldwin might come up and take it from him. I mean, I think Brooks Baldwin can play everywhere, but it doesn't mean he can't be your second baseman, like if he's your best guy, right? So, but Lenyn Sosa will be in that mix. I mean, he's more important than the Danny Mendics of the world and your Zach Remelards and all these guys, obviously. So, yeah, I think I don't know that he's great at third, but he's been playing there quite a bit. I think second's probably more likely. But yeah, like Lenyn Sosa can hit, man. Like I was really surprised last year. Not initially, he comes up and struggles, but he just never got with, he just like never really got with the program in the big leagues. And I was kind of surprised because like when guys do what he did in the AA Southern League, like it's a really good indicator of pro success. And he put up like a 150 WR, like he put up like Luis Robert numbers there, which is crazy.
Yes, he did. So I think he's finally starting to figure some things out. There's no reason why that kid shouldn't play the majority of like the rest of the season. Yep. I 100% agree. Let's see. You know, I mean, I'm not going to ride you on it, Trey, but, you know, do you think Lenine and Baldwin can be the second baseman next year?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you want to see some prolonged success out of Baldwin as well. I mean, you know, I got a tweet yesterday asking if George Wolkow was going to be in Birmingham before the end of the year.
I know. It's like, no, I don't even think I'd do Winston. Like, we'll see, right? Like,
yeah,
we got to see.
If it continues like this and he's got, you know, 1,400 at OPS, you know, like, yeah, maybe he sees Winston for the last month or something.
Do you remember what Jim Callis told us at the beginning of the year about what the White Sox thought about, like, who their most underrated prospect was?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was early. It was really early. He said, the White Sox would tell you that everybody's too low on Brooks Baldwin, and that's their, like, best guy that nobody's talking about. And by golly, maybe they're
at the time
totally stupid about everything.
We knew he was good, but that's pretty insane.
I mean, a lot of these guys I've always kind of said, like, let me see it in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
And he did, you know? So.
Yep. Let's see here. Have you guys talked recently about the system as a whole versus the rest of MLB and where you think it is at the break? I think that me and him we'll probably talk about this at some point, but probably not until after the draft, right?
Yeah, draft and trade deadline. So it's really tough now. Like, I would love to do like a true mid-season top 30, but with the late draft, like, it literally pushes the trade deadline to the last 3 days of the month. So then we're dropping a mid-season top 30 list like August 15th, and it's a lot of work. So it's just kind of, you know, so then you're doing the preseason list, and it's not that different than the one that you just did in August, but, you know, it's kind of like the only way that I know how to do it right now. But yeah, we'll look at that. I think they're like a middle of the pack system with the ability to get better. Thorpe and Cannon are both going to drop off here pretty quick, so that hurts, right? Losing Thorpe, but look, I mean, they're going to add some talent, and they got a whole draft, so we'll see.
Yeah. This is, as Kevin brings up, totally understand you got a lot going on right now. Yeah, with the draft coming up, there's a lot of stuff going on. But I mean, at some point we will at least leisurely talk about it on this fine over the fine airwaves here in the national airwaves. You got anything else for this evening?
No, not for this evening. We got a bunch of content dropping on the site. We'll have our Sleepy's trending piece. I'll get that out for everybody, you know, when it's ready. I have Mock Draft 3.0 out tomorrow, 7 a.m. on the website. And then I have a 5-round White Sox centric mock. That'll be the last one of those that I do. That comes out Tuesday. I'm going to update the mock draft with names only for the first 39 picks for Sunday. So then I just kind of keep track and see how many I get right. You know, if it's like 3 or 4, that would be very happy. That would be great. Yeah, it's hard. It's really, you think like, oh, I just nailed this thing, and then you miss one. You know, like it's it's so hard. So I'd like to have some like comprehensive draft preview, hopefully by Friday with a bunch of names in there. But I'd like quotes from Mike Shirley first, so I don't know when he's speaking. Maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. So yeah, and then we have our normal podcasts of the week. We're dropping 2 tomorrow, the Jeff Ellis one and this one.
Yeah, Jeff Ellis one was fun. So as you know, if you are watching here tonight, you know that you can watch it on YouTube, but know that you can find it on any platform that you are looking for your podcasts. If you are listening to this in podcast form, please check out YouTube and come join us on a Sunday night at 8 p.m. FutureSox.net, you can find all of our written program, which right now includes all of the mock drafts so far, a ton of draft profiles, plus, as he mentioned, Sleepy's Trending on the Farm articles, which come out every week on the Monday following the series conclusions. There's also a Patreon link if you would like to support us and help us put out more great content. That would be appreciated as well. FutureSox at FutureSox on Twitter. My name is Ian Eskridge at Daily White Sox. He is James Fox at JamesFox917. You can also check out the Future Sox Roundup with Elijah and Jeff, AAA Jeff, who they record on Mondays and release on Tuesday mornings. And also Danny Miller, who is down in the comments. He and Nick Borowski have Hot Takes and Heaters on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m., which would be great if you'd come and check them out as well. We appreciate all you guys coming and hanging out in the comments. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for driving the content. We appreciate you guys. You guys have a great time, great night, and we will catch up with you guys next week. Or please stop by the draft because we have the live draft show coming up next Sunday. So that's going to start a little bit earlier than normal. I should point that out because the draft does start earlier than our normal time. So 6 o'clock, right, James? So we will be starting at 6 o'clock live. We'll be on for a while until the first pick. Then we're going to take some time off after that, after the reaction, and come back for the second pick later on. So thanks so much, guys. You guys have a great night, and we will